My name's Adele Onyango and welcome to another episode of Legally Clueless. No, seriously, I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. Hello, welcome to episode 97 of Legally Clueless. Super excited that you are listening to this podcast. Just a reminder, join our online fam on Instagram at Legally Clueless Podcast. And then Twitter, I love connecting with everybody who tweets about the podcast, good or bad. Just use the hashtag Legally Clueless in your tweets. Now that that's done, how are you? I'm in such a good mood. But before I get to why, in this episode, I'm very excited about the story you will hear because especially when it comes to business, the stories that get told are only the sexy stories. Like you don't get very real and balanced story, but in this episode you will. Listen to this.
When I was around 5 years old, I used to sketch. Primary school, our Gikomba, I'd go there, the clothes were cheap. They were like 5 bob, 10 bob, 20 bob. But I'd go buy and sell them for like 50 bob. I didn't account for starting a shop where I'll pay rent. So I closed down and took my business home. There were days I think I wouldn't even leave bed. Where did I go wrong? You know, you start replaying scenes and you're thinking, did I do this? Maybe I hired too many people. I saved up enough money to start now my shop in October of now 2018. Then I launched and I was like, hey, Shop New Level, we have a store. Let me tell you, on the internet, people will congratulate you. You can get 600 comments. I think I got almost 600, but I got 0 sales. How am I paying rent? How am I paying rent? If this is the pace people are buying at. With time, I've started accepting that Nancy Giamini and people have also believed in you.
That is a story by Nancy Mwai. It's going to be coming up a little later in this episode. So back to my good mood. I am back home from my writing retreat that I went to this past week. It was a solo trip. My first time ever doing a solo trip. And let me tell you, I'm going to be doing them like I think every 2 months. I know I said every 3 to 4 months, but it's so good for your soul. It's so good for your spirit. If you can take a solo trip, please do. You can actually just get onto Airbnb. The cottage that I went to, which is so beautiful, I just found on Airbnb. And I will put a link in the description of this episode to that actual cottage. This is not sponsored. It's just that the host was so wonderful. The space is so... As soon as I drove in, my heart, everything was just calm. And I would love you to experience that as well. So yeah, as I was saying, if you can go on a solo trip, please do. You just are at peace with yourself. You can listen to your thoughts a bit more. You can reflect. You can do things that bring you joy. On that note of joy, that's something that we kind of deny ourselves of, especially if the thing that brings us joy isn't linked to like a revenue stream or your job or like a big project. You know what I mean? Like you will not go out of your way to do the things that bring you joy. And I hope that you can change that this year. So I went there. The first day, I thought I was not going to do any writing of poetry, but I was so inspired. I wrote, I think 5 pieces that are all under one banner that could hopefully run as its own short poetry film in one afternoon stroke evening. Imagine. Then the next day, was it the next day? I can't remember which day, but there's another piece that I wrote. I'd always wanted to write about slavery in East Africa, which I feel like nobody really talks about. And I was able to write a piece about slavery in Kenya and tying it to religion. I mean, I shouldn't be explaining the poem, especially if I'm going to share it with you, because I'd love you to interpret it on a clean slate. But I was so happy that I finally managed to write that piece. Like it finally got out. It was so refreshing. And I was just like listening to my favorite songs. I loved it. I loved it so much. I can't wait to go either back to that cottage or a couple of other cottages that I've found still on Airbnb. And still on my poetry, I realized I haven't shared this here. I think I do post some of my poetry on my website, and I'll put a link to that in the description of this episode. The pieces you will see there are older pieces, so none of the pieces that I wrote during this writing retreat have been shared yet. So while I was there, I, was in this peaceful space that I could just think about my life, think about where I am at, which is such a beautiful space. Over 10 years of intentional healing has gotten me to this point where I'm just intoxicated with freedom, and I'm doing really well in terms of living in the present moment. I'm surrounded by good energy. I'm at peace. And we're 10 years. So intentional healing is rough. It's super painful, but once you start seeing the fruits of it, it is wonderful. So anyway, I was alone in my thoughts, and I'd like to share like 3 truths that came to me while I was on this trip. The first one being, don't rush through life. I think we forget that life really does happen in the now. It doesn't happen in the past. It doesn't happen in the future. It happens in the now. And we're so focused on either of those two that we're rushing life instead of like just sit there and enjoy it as it's happening in the now. I don't know if that makes sense, but honestly, if you can take anything from this specific truth, it's that life only happens in the now. It doesn't happen in the future because the future hasn't happened yet. It doesn't happen in the past because that's gone. It only happens in the now. So don't rush through it. Be present in it. And then the second one was, and I love this one because I think it really does capture where I'm at right now. Come home to yourself, the person who you were before you thought you should be different. I really feel like I've come home to 20-year-old Adele, who was a bit weird, loved things that people perceived to be weird, like poetry, could be a bit of a loner, was marching to like her own drum and like just doing her own thing, and was so comfortable in that. And then in my 20s, I feel like I veered away from that, maybe because of the industry and career I went into. I don't know why I did that. Maybe I thought it wasn't adequate or enough or right. And so I deviated from that. But now I feel like I've really, truly come home to myself, and it really does feel amazing. So that definitely is my second truth that I wanted to share. And then the third and last one is, you are really such a small part of this magnificent painting that is the universe, that is life. And I think there's freedom in understanding your insignificance. And you shouldn't take it badly. It's just understanding that you're part of something so much bigger. So even in moments where you think your world is ending because of this, that, or the other, it helps to remember you're a very small piece. You and the world you live in is a very small piece of this huge, magnificent painting. The trees do what they're here to do. The birds sing regardless of whatever chaos is happening, because that's what they're here to do and more. The river and large bodies of water just are, and they all do their part. And so you have to do yours, which is to live and to just be. And this truth should bring with it a lot of freedom for you. So there's freedom in understanding your insignificance. All right, let's jump into the song of the week, which was a song I was replaying in that cottage. My God. It's by Sir. I really love him. I love his music. I love everything he does. So you're definitely going to be getting a lot more Sir songs on this podcast. But the one I want you to check out is called The Evil. If you can't hear the lyrics, pull up the lyrics on Google or whatever as you're listening to the song. I just think there's some lines that are just so beautiful. One of my favorite lines is when he says, life is worth living when you live it slow motion. Wait, let me pull up those lyrics. I don't want to get it wrong. He says, because life is so much better when you live in slow motion. Check it out. I'll put a link to it in the description of this episode. All right, let's jump into 100 African stories. Super excited for you to listen to this story because it's by someone who I've always just been fascinated by her energy. It's so real. It's so raw. Regardless of where she is, I feel like she's constantly and consistently just been herself. And it's a story by Nancy Mwai, who is from right here in Kenya. I love this story because she talks about relationships with failure. She talks about relationships with rejection, especially when you are running your own business. And even the human parts of that journey she brings out. So I hope you enjoy the story. We recorded it at the rooftop of the building where her shop is. I'll put all the links to her shop in the description of this podcast. And there was like some strange dog just barking endlessly in like the next plot, and we were on the rooftop. I'm just like, how are we hearing this dog? But so I apologize for that background noise, but you will still be able to hear Nancy, and you'll still be able to just listen to the amazing gems she shares in the story. 100 African stories on Legally Clueless. Stories from Africa.
So my name is Nancy Moi. I'm a digital content creator from Nairobi, Kenya. I was born in Thika, raised in Thika, and then I moved to Nairobi 13 years ago. Yeah, when I came to uni, when I came to Strathmore after high school. Life in Thika was very, very simple. You know everybody around you. You know, it's right now that I live in Nairobi, it's different. I don't know my neighbors, but there I knew people from the next street, the other estate. So it was really, really good life. I think I loved growing up in a small town, but that growing up in a small town is what gave me like big fashion dreams, because that's where my fashion dreams started. So growing up, when I was around 5 years old, I remember I used to sketch a lot, but the sketches, I still can't sketch, but I remember seeing Oriero Gomanduli on TV with the gele. I didn't know what it was called. I was like, it's a thing on her head. So I remember sketching that, trying to draw it. And then I remember I used to have like a Barbie doll that I would make clothes for from rags. So, and I even remember, even right now in my mother's house, in my room, the walls are written tops and vests, skirts, because they're miniature clothes. So I stack them and arrange them, and I'd made them from like different, tatters. Yeah, so they'd have like, like a red skirt with a black top, so that's where I started like stitching. But I don't like stitching at all, but I remember doing it then, and I really enjoyed it. That was I think when I realized I love fashion. When I was in primary school, our Gikomba, I can say like our toy market was called Mokereti, and I'd go there. The clothes were cheap. They were like 5 bob, 10 bob, 20 bob, but I'd go buy and sell them for like 50 bob to my friends. I'd be like, I'm gonna make a coin. I'd go sauce, and those things. Yeah, that's what I started doing when I came to Nairobi and I went to USIU and I needed to make money. I started going to Gikomba to sauce, but it's something I had done before. When I thought of I needed to make extra cash, that was one of the ways that I thought to do it. I went to high school in Narumoru, a very cold school. In high school, I was a creative, so I realized quite quick I was a creative. I loved doing the music and the drama, and I wasn't there for like the math fest or the science fest. That was not for me. And also, I wasn't doing that great in school, by the way. I think my first year, Form 1, I was fourth last. Man, it was stressful. First of all, you come from ABCD to the answer, man. Did you read or not? But it was culture shock for me. I think that's why I failed. And okay, I think my mom was so disappointed. But I was like, whatever. It was Form 1, then Form 2, then I think from Form 3, I actually started being serious. So I think Form 4, I think I was top 5. I left as top 5. And I felt like I just did it so that I could pass. Even when I was choosing what I wanted to do, I wanted to go do fashion. But now after high school, coming into the real world, and I was like, where do you go do fashion? And I remember I'd chosen Eldoret, Moi University, and actually I was called there, but I'd already decided going to Strathmore to do accounting, which I quickly realized I'm not good at, so I went to USIU for marketing, and that was my mom who told me, if you want to do fashion, I'd rather you go do a business course, then you do your fashion after. So knowing that I knew I didn't like to stitch, and at that point, I thought fashion was, my mom had told me fashion is tailoring, and I knew that's not what I want to do. So when I went to USIU, that's when, because of being able to express yourself, being able to wear whatever it is I could wear, I had a mohawk. In Strathmore, you couldn't do that. You had to look official. I started a blog, and that is where I feel like now my fashion journey started. By the time I was graduating, I had a job at Nation newspaper, Buzz, the Sunday one. I had an article I used to write for the fashion trends, something like that. They used to pay me 10K a month. It was so bad. But I did it for 2 years, and I really enjoyed it. And I think that's when after now starting my blog, I started doing styling for people. Tried to start a fashion magazine. It was an online one. I think it was way before its time. It was called Kasha. And then now I used to work at Nation. So I stayed there for 2 years. Now I had a blog, and I was like, okay, now I think it's time to leave. But with that, I realized there's so much opportunity in the fashion industry. You don't have to know what my mother told me to be a tailor. It could be, there's so much. I knew I wanted to be a fashion designer, but I always felt like I didn't go to school for it. And I still never felt the need to go to school for it. So that's, before I graduated, I started selling clothes from Gikomba. Just before I graduated, I started selling stuff. That was like, I think a year before I started selling stuff. Because that last year, you had to do what is called the internship and all that. So now for me, I did a project instead, and then I started selling stuff. So by then I had a blog. It was doing really well. So I used to put clothes up on the blog. It was called Market Day Friday. There was no Lipa na M-Pesa back then. You had to send money to M-Pesa had just come, I think, and people would send money to my M-Pesa. There were no do-these to deliver there were none. So what did I used to do? My friend and I, because we started together, we used to go sit at Lifestyle upstairs. There was a restaurant. We would sit. We have packed everything in the juala. You come, you say, it's 1 euro. 1 euro, I give you your order. It's Nancy. Here you are. It's Susan. Here you go. Thank you for buying. And everything on that Market Day Friday was 1,000 bob and below. But it was such a hassle. We used to wake up early in the morning, go to Gikosh, even on a rainy day, sauce, look for clothes, then come back. This was the most hilarious part. We would come back tired, like sweaty, wear those clothes, take photos. I used to live in Roisa. We'd go upstairs where we used to anika the clothes, where we used to hang the clothes, take pictures, and they used to look so bad. I see them now and I'm like, yeah. There was nothing like content creation, but we were doing it we needed to make money. I've finished school, I need to pay rent, I have bills, my mom is not going to support me for that long. That's what I did. There was no business model in my Gikomba days. Any money I made, we'd shop on a Monday or Wednesday. Friday we've sold. By Saturday the money is done. No saving. My initial capital is 1,000 bob. My friend's capital is 1,000 bob. We would do the same cycle again. Remove your 1,000. We cut it into half. Here's your money. Remove your 1,000. We're done. You get, maybe it's only like later, like 6 months later, we're like, okay, let's remove like 2 G's. Let's try and grow this business. No savings, no nothing. There was a party to be gone on Saturday. I would go for the party. I'd spend. The cycle starts again on Monday. So at that point, I started thinking, after we stopped doing the Gikomba thing, I started thinking maybe content is where it's at. So I started putting more effort into creating content, and I started now getting better at it, joined YouTube. And at that point, I wasn't selling Gikomba stuff per se for a good year and a half. I also got pregnant, so I didn't bother. But now it was about content creation, and at that point I started growing and reading other people's work, seeing what they're doing, and then I started now growing a lot as a content creator. Even while doing the Gikomba stuff, I started doing more articles on my blog, writing more, doing more research and things like that. So I started getting better at it. So what happened next? After I gave birth in 2014 April, in 2015 January, I started a shop, importing clothes type of shop. And that is, I think, where some of my biggest lessons started. Because I thought I used to sell Market Day Friday Gikomba. I was like, I could do this easily. It's gonna be easy. But now I didn't account for starting a shop where I'll pay rent. I'm starting a shop where I'm importing. So the price points of the people who have maybe buying from me before, their price points, they're like, why are you selling at this price point? This is Atujazoea, And now also location wise, I remember I was at a building in Westlands and I was on 5th floor, and it's a fashion store on 5th floor. I'm not an office. So for me, I thought just having a location people can come to is great. As long as I'm on the internet, they'll come. My God, that's not it. 8 months later, I closed down the shop. One of the biggest lessons I learned from Market Day Friday was sometimes we'd get a very good garment. The problem is you have 30, 40 people wanting the same garment. So I started feeling like I have one garment that I can sell to one person. Is it possible to get maybe 10 more to sell to another 10 people? So I was like, I'll rather import. So now I started importing, but now with importing comes the time you have to wait. It's no longer okay. It was easier. Now I don't have to go to Gikomba with all the mud and all that. But now there's a whole importation taxes, duty. You have to source. Are you gonna travel there or are you gonna source online? And then sometimes you can get something. You're like, okay, so I sourced online and it's not what I thought I would get. There was a time I sourced for a dress. I got a scarf, and I'd already, thank God, I bought a thank God it was a sample. You know, you thought it was a dress, but it came as like a small fabric that looked like a scarf. But also now employing people, I started learning you have to now, I can't do everything. So I started learning about, you have to delegate, employ people who are good at their job. So it was a bigger thing than Market Day Friday. I felt like when I started my first shop, I went in with the same mentality as Market Day Friday. I didn't feel like I elevated my mentality in any way. So I closed down and took my business home. So what I started doing is, any stock I had left, I started trying to sell it off on sale. And once I finished it, I just said, I'm not doing this anymore. That was the end of it. I was so heartbroken. I think I was depressed for like a good 3 months. I wasn't understanding. I was like, I thought I had these things were going so well. Where did I go wrong? You start replaying scenes and you're thinking, did I do this? Maybe I hired too many people. Maybe I hired the wrong people. Maybe I was in the wrong. You just started replaying. And after those 3 months, which I felt like they were necessary for me, but I think after replaying and feeling pity and feeling bad, I just become a new mom and I was like, oh, am I a failure? What's going on? I think after wallowing in pity, I started looking at those as lessons. I started saying, next time, I think if I'm not gonna go on 5th floor. Next time, I'm not gonna do this. Next time, at least I came from a point of, I'm not gonna do this anymore to a next time. So that was the entire of 2016. And at the end of 2016, I launched Shop New Level because I closed my shop 2015 August. I remember very well. That was around my birthday, so I think I felt so bad. So that entire 2-3 months I tried to clear the stock, and then I just used to feel just bad about the entire situation. And there were days I think I wouldn't even leave bed. I wouldn't even shower. I would be like, for what, for who, to do what? Where am I going? I have nothing for myself, and it was such a hard period for me. And then still being a new mom, it was a very hard period. I recovered, and in 2016 is when I relaunched my blog, because after getting pregnant, I kind of brought everything down. I was like, I don't feel like doing this. Let me start my shop. I know what I'm doing. So in 2016, I relaunched my blog, I think around March. And then now I just wanted to do whatever. Whether I blog or not, I needed that platform to be there, because that's what I started on. So I still have my blog. It's right there. I may write once a year. It's great. I may write twice a year. It's fine. Whatever it is I feel like doing, I told myself I'll never pressure myself. It's whatever I'll manage to do with it as I go. But it's good to have a platform that I started 10 years ago. I still have it. I remember even I removed my photos. I was an emotional wreck. Like now I even regret it. I was like, I wish I could be able to show my daughter the first posts I did, way back where I went to college. I had all that. Now I don't have them. In October, I registered Shop New Level, and in December, I launched a website. It started as a shopnewlevel.com. It was a website. No shop. Friends, family were there for me then. I remember, I think we've talked about it with Mandy. We went to Senegal in 2016. It was around, I think, June, July. And oh my God, I remember she paid my cab. I had no money. I had no source of income. I had no blog. I had my shop. It was really such a hard time. And I remember she paid for my cab to go to the airport. I was like, so I'm going to Senegal with zero in my bank account. What vibes are these? I was in such a bad place. I remember that day and I'm like, what? Mandy had to buy me food, because we had to eat out. And I was like, I told her, just give me money. I buy some things. I'll give you when I get back home. It was such a trying time, and I can't believe within that, I think even after coming out of that depression, I still was hopeful, and I was like, you know what, it's okay, whatever happens. But when I launched my blog and I started coming back into content creation, got a few jobs, started saving up, and I said, I cannot put this money in another location on 5th floor. So I said, I'm just going to start a website. Let me prove to myself that I can sell on the site. I can, deliver the goods to the customer. And I can do that cycle again and again. I think maybe I felt like I failed because I came back with, so much bang. I just given birth. I went off for a couple of months and I'm like, hey guys, I have a shop. And then 8 months later, how am I telling people I no longer have a shop? I was like, no. Because even when I got pregnant and gave birth, I cleared my Instagram actually. I cleared my blog, cleared my Facebook. At that point, I felt like I was protecting my daughter. I don't know from what, now that I think back. Whatever my hormones were telling me at that point, that's what I did. And I think also, I remember saying, I remember even seeing women whose bounce back game was so good, and I was like, my fingers are even still fat. Like, I can't understand what's going on. My bounce back did not happen. I really had to go to the gym and really put in work for almost a year to feel like I've changed. So I feel like sometimes, yes, the outside pressures of social media can definitely make you feel like a failure. But if something like that was to happen to me now, I would not even feel like that. I would come and tell you my failures, nitawambia, so that, even me, I prepare you. Now it wouldn't. And I feel like now I'm better because of that experience. Right now I'm so much better suited to handle it. I now know I fail, next, stand up, move on. That didn't work, next. I don't dwell on it, because the more you dwell, I can self-pity. I can just stay there in that moment, being like, oh, she, oh, yeah, oh, yeah. No, I don't do that. I'm like, okay, so that didn't work. So what's the next solution? What can we do? Although I'll feel bad for, 2 business days, but next. I remember, because I'm the one who created that website, I remember very well. And I remember, I think I had like 4 products. And I was like, I'll just sell these 4 products. If they sell out, they sell out. If they do well, they do well. If they don't do well, I'll be left with the 4 products. I'll figure out how I can sell to friends, Okuchini, or send to a shop somewhere who can sell it off for me. But I was like, I'm not going into full commitment. I was already burnt once, But I remember even just getting the name. I remember registering. But I was so excited, getting bags branded, getting, the logo was very simple. I was so happy, feeling like I've gone back to my element again. And I told myself, this time, you're not allowed to give up. You're allowed to change course. You're allowed to change your mind. But just keep at it. Whatever is thrown at you, just try and see how you can go around it and what you can do with it. And that mentality has greatly helped. Let me tell you, making a website, the reason, even the one I have now, I made it. The reason I've done it is because I remember when I told my mom I want to do content, she gave me money. She gave me $100K and told me, because then websites were so expensive back in the day. And I remember, I think I paid someone $60K to make it. And I remember it was so much money. When I think back, I still get traumatized by that money that I paid. And from then, after the first website, I realized every time I needed for him to do something for me, I'd have to pay a fee. I'm not earning money from making the content already, because it was way back 10 years ago. Nobody was trying to pay you money for your blogs or your Instagram, so it was all purely love. So I've already put in money. I'm not earning anything. Imagine, necessity got me learning how to do websites. And from then, the next website I did it myself. And from that time henceforth, I've never paid anybody to do my website. Even now, I know I can afford to pay someone. But when we went into now the Rona, because I remember I'd already started working on it, and then I just gave it out. I was like, no, let me not do it. Let me just, I had excuses everywhere. But I told myself, you know what, you have time, start working on that website. And I just started. Now I sat down and started working on it, because I started and I was so lazy. I started working on it, and I started doing it, and we managed to launch. It's just the same process making it. It's different making a blog than it is making WooCommerce. WooCommerce is much more challenging. I was like, I'm gonna take the challenge. Where I can't, I always get a developer to help me, and I pay him a fee, because I'm not good at everything. But I always feel like I can always build a good structure of the website, and I know my vibes, I know what I want, and I'll be able to give myself that. And for my vibes, najua they're expensive, so since I won't be able to afford, let me just do it since I can. The reception then, it was good with the 4 products. It was great. People bought. Then now, I'm trying to get back into the game. I've come with like some cute stuff. I've done my business plan. I think I know who my audience is. So I kind of started looking at the people who used to buy from me before and started to see what are their similarities. What is this new audience that is buying from me. So I bought stuff, and I got the money. Something sold out. Of course, now it's a website, so I went quiet for like 2-3 months, and then I came back with new stuff. So that was a cycle. Quiet for a month, sell, come back. I did that for like a year, on and off. It was nothing consistent, So that was the entire of 2017. And then with that on and off, selling here and there, saving what I could, still working brand jobs, as now Nancy Mwai, I saved up enough money to start now my shop in October of now 2018. So at least there I was like, I think I'm confident. And then I was like, this is the location I've found. We are among other shops. It's not I'm among other offices, because I thought when the other offices, there's no competition, zero competition, and nobody trying to take my customers. Yeah, that was just such a bad mentality. What I did is before I launched again, like I got a store, I wrote down what was essential, like get a good location. You don't have to be in a mall where there's walk-ins, but just get yourself a place where you know, even though you called people to come, they'll come. Get a place where at least there's some form of activity, even though there's other shops. It's fine. When you're launching a shop, there's the structural part of things, which I didn't get an interior designer because at that point I'm working on a budget, very tight. Is it clothes I'm gonna buy or is it gypsum I'm going to put? So I was like, no to gypsum, let's buy some clothes. I had to hire someone. I knew at the beginning I needed to hire someone from the get-go. With my previous shop, I was the one who was the shop assistant at the beginning. For the first 3 months before I hired, I had the stock. I really didn't do like a launch party like what I just did the other day with the new space. I just, did my social media thing, 3 days to go, 2 days to go, 1 day to go. Then I launched and I was like, hey, Shop New Level, we have a store. Let me tell you, on the internet, people will congratulate you. You can get 600 comments. I think I got almost 600, but I got 0 sales. And people, they mean you, they're like, sis, we're coming to spend, we're spending all our coins. And I'm like, where are you? Where are you? I think I made 2 G's that day. There was a friend of mine buying for the girlfriend. It was like pity, like, umepata sales? No. Acha nikuletea mtu akujajaribu. I remember that day, I was like, hold up. How am I paying rent? I was like, how am I paying rent? If this is the pace people are buying at. I was like, no, Nancy, we can't go through this again. The second time, in public like this, and you have more followers. Yeah, ibu hautaki. The first day is slow, but the next day people came. It started picking up. Business started picking up. That was in 2018, 2019 came, and I was still learning. As I went, I still was learning, considering I don't have any investors. These are savings, or I'm working as an influencer and throwing money in my business, So in 2019, there was the whole problem of the shipments coming in, like when you ship in with shippers, like the freight guys, those things had been caught at the port. So I didn't have stock for a good 3 months. Then I decided, let me buy again with a different freight, because I had, their stuff is coming in, don't worry. Then I was like, I only have one last chance, and I did it, and it was still caught in the whole thing. I didn't have stock for like almost 2-3 months. What can you do? There's nothing you can do. You don't have stock. So there's nothing new. I'm like, no. Everywhere people were just complaining. There was like, no, they were not letting the cargo. There was a big problem. I think Uhuru had to go see, it was even on the news. I was like, so don't worry, the traders, you'll be sorted. Okay, but it was after such a long time, and finally we were sorted. But I remember what happened at that point when that was going on. It was around, I think, April, May, June. Around that time, I was like, what wanijaribu to make something. Let me try create. So I went into Nairobi Textiles, walked around, looked at fabrics. I was so lost and confused. I looked at them. I was like, okay, maybe I can. I started doing my margins now in the form of, now I'm creating something. So can I get someone to create for me? Found a tailor, and I made my first sample. It was horrible. But I was like, it's so nice. Oh my God, I love it. Anything I was like, oh my God, this is something, because I was like, I have something tangible. It's no longer in my mind. It's something I can see. Now that I look back, I'm like, it's horrible, because I remember the quality. I still have it. I look at the quality of it and I'm like, no, Nancy, this is not it. But it was a learning curve. I got a tailor. We made a few pieces and I took pictures. And when I went to launch them, they did so well. And I was like, what do you mean? Okay, so people are loving this that I've made. Okay, not bad. People are coming and say, your stuff is so good quality. Yani hata mtu, yani hizi vitu zinatengeneza zangu Kenya zikuangi poa, but najua wewe una importing. I'm like, yeah, I import. Hizo ajui nimemeka hapa hata mimi. And after that first item that I made a few pieces. I think I made like 30. I sold, I was like, success. I decided to just buy my first machine, and hire a tailor. That's when it started. It was around mid last year. Well, right now, I feel like, with importing, you get ready-made goods. So I can get 50 different styles just by picking, getting from vendors. You get them and you stock them. Right now, can my brain handle doing 50 new designs? I can't. Because I'm just one person who is also doing the marketing, who also has to work with work with my team. I'm also a mom, as in there's so much. I can't do 50 anymore. So right now it's also about capacity, thinking about what can I give, my customers and my clients. It's a bigger I think it's a bigger challenge, which the biggest is I'm enjoying it. As much as it's challenging, but I'm actually enjoying it. I feel like this is what I was meant to do. Now that I do it, I feel like this was it. I think this is it. My journey led me here. All those things that I went through, all the courses, all the failures, this was it. It was because of now. So now it's much more challenging. And especially now that I've started creating, getting a lot of people now plagiarizing my work, whether it's the prints or whether it's the design. It's happening a lot, and people keep telling me it means you're doing something right. I don't know whether that's to console me, but at the end of the day, especially when you've created something, if I've imported it, so maybe we might have the same vendor, you'll have the same thing, as long as you don't steal my content that I've really worked hard to create. We might have the same vendor, and you could end up selling it at a lesser price. But when you create something, it's so different, it really hurts differently. I created the 12 top in October of 2019. So this is a year after I've started my shop. This is a few months after I've decided to get a tailor. And I remember creating the design, because I remember saying to my tailor, it's nice that I create all these tops and I'm trying to do the trousers. I was really struggling with the pants because of the sizing of waist to hip. I'm new to this as well. It's a learning curve. So I was like, let me do what I feel I can handle. So I started doing blouses, and there was a good reception for it. Then I remember telling my tailor, I need to create something for the holidays. I had an idea of what I wanted. I explained it to him. I told him I needed to be one size fits all so that I can be able to manage my fabrics, so that I don't have many size 16s and maybe size 14s need, and I'm not moving the 16s, or I'm not moving the 8s and a 12 needs. I need it to be one size fits all. Created the design, and we made the 12 top. I remember wearing it day one, and I was like, hey, this is so nice. Told my shop assistant, come, take me a video. She took me a video, moving around, twirling. It was just moving, and I was like, oh my God, what am I going to call it? I was saying 12 top. I wrote 12 top. I went for whatever it is I was going for a meeting. My shop assistant told me, Guy, Nancy, tumeuza hiyo top leo. I was like, what? What do you mean? Maybe that was when I knew I was doing something right, because when we sold, we ended up selling out in 2 days, and I had to make new ones. That is when I was like, there must be something I'm doing right. So I guess that's why it's been the stolen design at this point. So after that, I sourced for new prints, brought in the prints, and they all did well. Yeah, they all did well. So okay, after the 12 tops, I still continued to import. So it was both. I was importing and I was making, just to, because I don't feel like I have the capacity, and even at this point I still don't have the capacity to feed like my client base. So I'm still moving on with that as I go, and still learning on how to do it. So I had to import and still make, so that I can have a balance as well. But as I went, I started now realizing this works, this doesn't. I create something, this is good, people don't like this. With that, I was able to actually just test. I don't have to fully commit into buying, importing, bringing on things only for it not to work. So now I'm able to test and see do people like it. If they like it, I go ahead and produce it. If people don't like it, I don't bother. If I put it up on my Instagram and nobody asks me where is that from, I don't bother. There's something I created in January. Oh my God. I think I'm only finishing the stock now. And my friend told me, that top, Nancy, no. But I loved it. I loved the design. I don't understand what went wrong. I don't understand. But my friend told me, Nancy, that design, yeah. Me, and I was so, I really loved, even to the point I've stopped wearing it. I don't hate it per se. By the way, I don't hate it. I was just like, what did I do wrong? And I think I was coming from the high of the 12 top, and I was like, yeah, here are some new designs, guys. And then people didn't buy it as much. I was like, people are not buying. And it's very clear cut. If people like it, they will give you money. If they don't like it, they will not give it to you. But now I started learning, like, test. Don't commit to doing something. If I tested and people didn't care, I'll probably use that fabric for something else. Probably already finished it, sold, and moved on. Especially when you're producing here and you're running like a small production thing, I need to be very much aware of the resources that I have. At the end of the day, I still have to cover my overheads and cover, the salaries and everything. So I have to be very much aware of what I'm doing. So I can't just go making haphazard decisions, thinking, this is what people like, and that's not probably what they don't want. That you'd be surprised they wanted something else. I could have really saved myself a lot of heartache. But now I don't take it personally. I feel like after that experience, I had to go sit down and understand my customer, especially during this corona. I had to really understand what do people want, and you have to give people what they want, not give them what you think you want to give them because you think you know best. Give them what they want. So when it comes to to imposter syndrome. I used to go through that a lot because I'd doubt now, especially starting to make, it's easier to import. It's been made, it's not my design. With time, I've started accepting that, Nancy, Giamini and people have also believed in you. And yes, I used to feel like, and even up to today, I'm not gonna lie, I'm like, you never went to fashion school. What are you doing? You know, there are people who've gone to fashion school, people who've traveled abroad, they've learned with the best, and you know, I can't even stitch to save my life. I cannot tell you running stitch, whatever stitch. I can't tell you. You know, I just can't. When it comes to the technical bit of things, no. But you know, I started telling myself, there's a reason why you went to business school. There's a reason why you did your marketing, because at the end of the day, whatever product it is, you have to learn how to sell it, good or bad. So I said, I need to believe in myself. At the end of the day, the bottom line is whatever it is you're creating has to be sold. And I know I can do that. So I stopped feeling so bad about it. But there are days where I'm just like, I have no idea what this fabric is called. And I have to go watch videos and understand this fabric is like this, it behaves like this, it behaves like that. And then I'm talking to my head tailor, asking him, so this is good for what? You know, this is good for that. And what that has done, we end up spending a lot of money on samples. Because sometimes I need to envision it. I don't have that mind of, this is that nice fabric. You look at a fabric, you're like, I can already see what it can make. No, I'll buy it and I'll go make a sample and I'll wear it. Now, what that has helped me do is wear it, walk around with it, feel how it feels. It's washed, dried. We look at it. We're like, okay, it didn't run. It didn't change shape. I end up testing things because anyway, Sina, I don't have that idea. So I really know what, sometimes there are people who can look at a fabric and they're like, oh, this is viscose and it can do that. It's good for this, it's good for that. Meh, Sina habari. But what that has helped me do is just be more creative and figure it out. So you realize maybe a fabric that is used for X may ended up using it for Y and it worked. You get, well, for me, I keep saying success is peace of mind and self-actualization. But for my business, what I can say is after I stopped importing, I had one employee. It was me and her. But after I stopped, I have 8. In my own little way, I'm like, I'm building the economy. I'm employing someone is keeping their child in school. When you're hearing there are no jobs, I'm like, I have been able to sustain people's jobs. Actually, that is a very huge thing for me. I saw the difference. Imagine, because now it means when I import, which is, it's okay, it's fine, there's nothing wrong with it, but it means I'm creating employment to the people of that country that I'm importing from, that office, that vendor, that company. It's never about us here. And I kind of understand. The older I've gotten, I understand what it does for us as, Kenyans. And it's just pride, as this was created by us. It's for us. It was created here to be exported. It's created for us here to enjoy it. And it's good quality. So it's something that makes me very, very, very proud. Okay, if you have an idea, you want to follow your dreams, you think you can do this, and you're just feeling like, I don't know if I'm right for it, I don't know if I'm good at it, test it. So you want to sell shoes, buy a few pairs, test if you can sell. Because what I've realized, especially on the age of Instagram, is you look at someone doing something, you're like, that I can do, how hard is it? But until you're dropped in there and you're like, oh, so I had to create a page, so I have to create content, you have to import the products, you have to talk to the customers, you have to get a rider to do this. If things go wrong, things can be, you can be busy today. You can be having maybe mom duties or family function, but you still have to show up for your business. People don't realize these things. It's something that has happened over time. For me, I can say it's been, 10 years since I started now the blog, and it's led me to this. So it's not something I started yesterday. You get Shop New Level is 4 years in the making, and with the other shop, Neon 27, that's it's like 6 years. You have big dreams, great, it's amazing, but you have to realize you have to walk the journey. The journey you have to walk it. You have to understand your business. You have to learn your lessons. There'll be hard times, they'll always come what may, there'll be challenges, because for every time you elevate to the next level, there has to be a challenge. So don't think that me, I'm lucky, I have all the money in the world. No, you may have all the money in the world, but let me tell you, there are problems that can't be solved with money. You get, and sometimes when you have all the money in the world, you're finding money solutions, whereas you don't need money solutions. You actually need to sit down and critically think, what can I do without having to splash money at the problem, To be nice, if all of us in business, we can get like money, and have all the money in the world to do whatever it is we can do. But some problems need to be solved with thinking, critical thinking, and also research your business. Do competitive analysis, and start small. Start with an Instagram page, or start with a website, whatever it is, start small. If you try and sell your pair of shoes for one pair in 3 months, imagine if you started a shop, what would you be doing? But imagine if you caught on and you realized, oh wow, so the money I'm making now, I can afford a shop. You're going to find a shop knowing I already have customers, I already have sales, I sell this much a month, So it's just taking small steps, baby steps. It's easier to take steps to get to wherever it is you're going as opposed to leaping.
Catch more African stories in the next episode of Legally Clueless. I really enjoyed having that one-on-one session with Nancy. I feel like I got to know her so much better. She was in USIU around the same time I was there, but I didn't know the backstory of when she fell in love with fashion, sketching when she was 5 years old. I always love how when I sit down to record stories, especially of people who either I know or know of, I learn so much more about them. I loved when she talked about the website. Remember, I told you many episodes ago at the beginning of 2020, how I just sat down and immediately we went into lockdown and did my website all by myself because I'd been having issues with the website. My former management had gotten this guy who ended up messing the website, and then I felt like nobody was trying to rectify it. So when she was talking about that, I was just like, yes, just make your own damn website. When she talked about failure, especially getting into this space where I'm doing my own thing, I'm really trying to take extra time to reevaluate, redefine what failure would look like and how it would change me, if at all, how I would relate with it, because, this is your thing. And so when it fails, it's so hard not to take it personally. So yeah, when she brought that up, especially dealing with a failed business that you've put in your money, your resources, your time, your strength into it, and then it doesn't work out, it can be a lot. But I'm glad that she got back up. And Shop New Level, her store, is amazing. I have gotten some really good rings. I've gotten a chain from there and hats. Oh my God. There's one hat that I recently got from there. It's like a brown straw hat with a blue and red band. Even Fal was like, I think you're overwearing. You're wearing this hat. You can't force it to go with every outfit. So I put a link to Nancy's Instagram page and also a link to her shop's Instagram page and the website. So make sure you just check it out, especially now that you know the entire story of how it came to be. If you want to share your story on this podcast, all you have to do is record a 1-minute story demo telling me a bit about the story you want to share and send that to the podcast number via WhatsApp. And the podcast number is +254 768 628 790. It's also in the description of this episode. And maybe you've just listened to a story or something I've said on the podcast, or even just the song of the week, and you relate with it so much. Feel free to record an audio note about that and send it to the Legally Clueless hotline as well.
Hi Adele, I'm just done listening to the episode of Legally Clueless. I really do feel for the lady, always being a top achiever, then expecting that things will work out for you and they don't work out for you the way you thought they would can get you really into a rut. But I would tell her to relax and make sure, while she's still looking for a job, to make sure that it is something that she loves to do. Myself, I was in a similar situation as her, almost a year and a few months back, and I was in a hurry. I ended up getting into this institution that, has cost me quite a bit of strife in the last few months, and it has really pushed me. My anxiety levels are so heightened these days. I think it's because of where I work. So I would advise her that as much as she's desperately looking for a job, she shouldn't let her desperation drive her to a place that she's going to even be more sad and depressed. Because working at a place that is not very healthy for you will really affect your life, because we spend almost 80% of our days at work. I would tell her to be patient. Things are going to work out. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe even not this year, but she's going to make it, because I believe there is no way that you were given such a gift of being brilliant and it's all going to go to waste. Something will work out for her eventually.
Thank you so much for those kind words. And I completely identify with what you're saying. We spend so much time at work that a toxic workplace will definitely impact your life. I know all about that. I know all about that, man. When you're talking about the impact on your anxiety, it took me right back to my former job and just how I was having anxiety attacks, panic attacks, we really underestimate how much a toxic work environment will affect you. You spend so much time there. Yeah, thank you so much for sending through that audio note. And if you want to send yours as well, send it to the Legally Clueless hotline. Something I forgot to mention about the solo writing retreat I went on. Of course, I mentioned in a couple of episodes ago that one of the things that I would want to actualize is a short poetry film. So some of the writing that I was doing on that trip was towards that. And I just wanted to share that I do not have, specifically for that, I do not have everything worked out. I don't even know, how does one even begin putting a film together, no matter how short? I don't know, but I'm doing my part, which is writing. So I wanted to share that in case there is something you want to actualize and you're just feeling like it's such a huge project. It can never be. I'll never be able to do this. I don't have the skills to do it. Start by doing what it is that you do and then just see where that goes. Don't be too stressed about it. Everything that's meant to happen happens at the time that it's meant to happen. All right. Remember to catch this podcast on Trace Radio in Kenya. If you go to traceradio.co.ke, there's a list of all the frequencies you can catch Trace on while in Kenya. If you're not in Kenya, you can also catch this podcast on Trace Play. That's it for this episode of Legally Clueless. You can share this podcast with your friends. You can keep it for yourself. I'm not judging. Just make sure you're here next week for the next episode.